Good morning and welcome back to the River Center. Today we are in the front oval garden at the River Center. So as you come into the River Center, you're going to walk through this garden. And we have a lot of different cool plants in here that were part of a project by once an Eagle Scout, and then also the Jupiter and Tequesta Garden Club also spent some time in here putting in some of these beautiful plants that we have in this garden. But today we're going to talk about one specific kind of plant in particular, and that are epiphytes. You might know them as bromeliads or air plants. Now, these plants are in the genus Tillandsia, and we have 16 different types of Tillandsia here in Florida. 10 of them, however, are listed as threatened or endangered. We're going to be talking about some of these different kinds today, and we are fortunate that here in front of the River Center we have lots of live oak trees, which are perfect for these air plants. They like nice woody bark to be able to attach to, and that's what we have in these live oaks right here. Now, why are they called air plants, I wonder? Well, they're called air plants because they do actually get their nutrients from the air. A lot of people are concerned sometimes when they see them, growing in the trees, that they might actually be harming the trees, but that's not true. They just it's a symbiotic relationship. They are getting protection from the tree, and they're just kind of hanging out there, not hurting the tree at all, and they get all of their nutrients from the air. So we have a couple of different kinds of Tillandsia here in the garden, and we're going to talk about each one. Let's get started. So this one is called ball moss. It is actually fairly common. You'll find it in oak hammocks around a lot. Now, one of the things that's interesting and that makes a bromeliad is that their leaves are covered with a whole bunch of scales that give them this kind of gray-green color. Now, sometimes the ball moss grows together all like this, and it looks kind of like a bird's nest. So if you see one of these up in the trees, it's not necessarily a bird's nest, but it kind of has that look. I'll show you some other ones that don't quite look like that. So this is actually ball moss as well, but as you can see, it's just kind of growing right here, kind of low to the bark of the tree. But it's possible that it could grow and become kind of that nest as well, but right now it's just kind of flat against the tree. So this one is Spanish moss. You can find it everywhere in our live oak hammocks, and sometimes it looks kind of ghost-like or creepy, but this is an epiphyte. It's a air plant just like it, and it is actually really great for a lot of insects and things like that. We don't have very much of it here. As you can see, this is just kind of a little bit that's growing, but hopefully one day we'll have a whole bunch. So the next one that I want to talk to you about is a very special one. This one is called the giant air plant or giant wild pine bromeliad. This particular one is listed as endangered here in Florida for a couple of different reasons. First, back in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of the Tillandsias, wild pines and others, were attacked by Mexican weevils. And because they were so susceptible, we lost vast populations of them. Some of the other things that they're facing, though, is illegal collection, so people taking them from the wild, as well as habitat loss. So as we develop more here in South Florida, they're losing these valuable live oak trees and pine trees that they used to live on. Now, you can tell it is a giant air plant. That's why it's called that. This is a wild pine, and it has leaves that can get up to 2 feet, actually. This one's kind of a smaller one. And they can live for up to 20 years. But when they're done, they put up this one spike right here, which can get up to about 6 feet in height. It's pretty incredible. So they'll flower once, and then once they do that, they die. And as you can see, this one right here was actually flowering just a month or so ago, and it has given up all of its seeds and is now dead. And that's one of the other problems with the giant air plant, is that a lot of the other tillandsias, they do what we call pup, and they'll pup out some additional little plants around the mother plant. But wild pine doesn't do that. They give this one big hurrah and then they're done, which is also another reason why they're susceptible to these population declines. So this is another tree here at the River Center, but this is actually in the parking lot. And as you can see, this tree is just covered in those wild pines. So this is pretty incredible. We just noticed this not too long ago. It was pretty interesting. And I'll show you on another tree. I think we have a bunch of little ones growing. We'll have to take a look. I'm not really sure, but possibly. So here are a whole bunch of little tiny air plants, and I'm not sure yet, but they very well might actually be wild pines. They're a little too little for me to know, and I don't pretend to be a wild pine expert, but I'm hoping that they are, and then this whole tree will get covered by those wonderful plants as well. I also just wanted to point out real quick that we have a whole bunch of lichen on this tree too. Lichen is a cross between algae and fungi, and usually when you see lichen, it means that there's good air quality around. Same with these air plants. If you see a lot of air plants, it means that we have good air quality. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned a little bit more about bromeliads and air plants, and especially our endangered and threatened plants that we have here in Florida. So things to remember, right? When you see them, please don't take them. They need to be growing in the wild. Also, if you see them in a tree in your yard, don't take them down. They're not hurting your tree. Just let them grow there. And most importantly, the next time that you go for a walk in the woods, look up. You might just see some beautiful air plants there. Enjoy. See you next time.